If you talk to anyone about real estate, the first thing they say is, gotta own a house and you're throwing money away on rent. Okay, so you have these odd phrases and you ask them why. Why are you throwing money away on rent? You're not building equity. Okay, we'll talk about that. And if you say, why would you buy a house? Great investment, do it for the tax deduction, and then I can afford to retire one day. So all these phrases, if you're listening, they just sound so logical because we've heard them repeated so many times. What I want people to do is to start challenging the phrases that have been fed to us by society. And if you run the math, you will discover that in many cities, including this city, it often makes no sense to buy at all. I could buy a place tomorrow, and I've been renting for 10 years. Why? Why would I do that? I'll tell you why. Because you are not throwing money away on rent. Did you throw money away last night when you went out to eat at a restaurant? No, you paid for something, you consumed it, and you got value from that. If you're renting, you're paying for a roof over your head every month, and that's it. You're getting value from it. What people do with real estate is they start to factor in all these things like tax deductions, which, by the way, especially in America recently, have basically gone away. They forget to factor in phantom costs. And this is profound for people. In life, people rarely factor in phantom costs, invisible costs. So if you've got an apartment that's renting for $1,000 a month, and you've got an apartment you can buy for $1,000 a month, people say, oh, I just buy it because I build equity. What about the taxes that you have to pay here and not here? What about repairs, maintenance? What about HOA fees? What about closing fees? Now, here's the profound point. People say, well, those are factored in to your rent. Why would someone rent to you if they're not making money on it? And the answer is, landlords don't set the price based on costs. They can only charge what the market will bear. So when people say, well, of course they're making money, you need to know this. Most landlords don't even know their costs. Some landlords are profitable, but many are not. And this is the point. You need to run the numbers on real estate. In short, a good rule of thumb, at least in America, is if you can't put down 20% for a 30-year loan, you're not ready. If you're not going to stay there for 10 years minimum, you're not ready. If you don't understand what terms like PMI are, you're not ready. And so what I want people to do is to get educated, run the numbers, because this is a huge decision. Do not listen to your uncle, your aunt, your distant relative saying, you're throwing money away on rent. No, this is a big decision. Get educated about it. So many of the emails I get from people in financial trouble are because they bought a house and they didn't realize all the phantom expenses that would come with it. All the fees I talked about, all the maintenance, all the decorations that they're now gonna do. And so suddenly they have this house, but they can't travel anywhere. They can't do anything. They have to commute longer. Now, if the house is something you love and you really want to decorate it, or you want to live in this one dream house, be my guest. I will buy eventually. What I want people to do is to run the numbers and not take these things that have been fed to us by society, that renting is for losers. It's not. And you see this concept everywhere. The New York Times writes headlines basically implying that renters are not as accomplished or they're not as valuable as homeowners. That's not true. A rich life for people has changed. And it used to be, I want to buy a house, I want to have 2.5 kids, a white picket fence, a dog, and then I retire. That's not true anymore for a lot of people. We want to travel. Maybe we want to be bi-coastal. Maybe we want to work remotely. These things are different. And so what I want with I Will Teach You to Be Rich and Your Rich Life is to think really hard. Do I want to buy a house? Have I run the numbers? Is it worth it to me? And if it's not, it's perfectly fine to say, I'm not going to do that. The National Association of Realtors, one of the most powerful lobbying groups ever, they want you to buy, so they create propaganda saying real estate only goes up. Oh, when it goes up, it's good. And when it goes down, it's a great buying opportunity. So it's always good? Is that what you're telling me? No, it makes no sense. Then you have the government, which actually encourages people through things like formerly tax deductions, etc. They want people to buy houses. Okay, so there's that. And then of course there's social. There's our friends who say, oh, you still rent? Or wow, you bought this? That social approval that comes from our friends and parents is so insidious, so powerful. It's important to know people buy a diamond ring, and there's a lot of marketing behind it. And one of the things that people use to convince themselves of this emotional purchase is, well, if we ever need to sell it, we can. And what they don't realize is there's effectively no resale value at all. You can buy a ring, it could be $3,000, it could be $50,000. You go to sell it the next day, it's effectively worthless. Maybe 10, 15% of what you paid. So we use that in the back of our logical head to say, well, I'm doing it for a good reason. And that's the way we work. We need to acknowledge that. Don't deny that we buy the things we want. And in that article, I said, look, if you want to buy a ring, and if your partner really wants it, do it. In fact, go extravagant on it if you want to. But run the numbers and get educated about the facts. Don't let this little logical voice trick you into thinking this is a financial decision. It's not. And so for housing, it might turn out to be good for your friend, but it would probably be better if they were just honest and said, this makes me feel good, it makes me feel safe, it makes me feel accomplished. That would be more honest if they had run the numbers. Part of living a rich life is being honest with what am I spending on and why. When I go to a nice hotel, I love to spend on it because I come back from lunch, the room has been made up, and there's little details in there that weren't there before. I realize it makes me feel that someone is there looking over me. It's almost like having a parent there to take care of you. And I think deep down, a lot of us love that. Now, we might express that through a hotel. That's a relatively rare one. We might express it through taking care of a partner or being taken care of. Maybe you love when your partner cooks for you or helps you with your clothes, whatever. For me, that's my thing. The hotel, it feels really good to know that someone is there watching out and making sure water's refilled and things like that. And I want everyone, as they dial it in, as they start to get really refined, whether it's with a $30,000 income or a $3 million income, your rich life is yours. And you should dial that in over time so that it becomes uniquely and unapologetically yours. If a house is part of that rich life, amazing, do it. Get informed, know the numbers, but do not make decisions on buying anything from a car to a house because society told me so. Right? Real estate is religion in America. It doesn't mean it's right. We should examine it. It's a financial purchase as well, and we should understand the numbers.